Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
To an LBC exclusive, though, black taxi licence applications, including new licences and renewals, are down by 20% this year. That's compared to the 12 months previously. Now, the industry is laying the blame squarely at the door of Uber, that app that allows you to effectively call a cab through your mobile telephone. Meanwhile, there's been a surge in the number of minicab drivers on the roads of London. So where exactly are we going with this? Could the black cab, and I appreciate they come in other colours, I do realise that that's a bit of a journalese or colloquialism, but they're known as London black cabs. Are the days numbered? Well, let's speak with London Mayor Boris Johnson, also called Conservative MP for Uxbridge, who joins me now. Mr Mayor, are we looking at the passing of a great institution? Good morning.
Well, no, I hope very much that we aren't. I think that black cabs are the gold standard of taxis anywhere in the world, and they do a wonderful job for our city. And they're very often the first point of contact that people will have with London and with Londoners. And so we need a great black cab service. What I'm really talking about this morning is the congestion threat that is posed by the massive increase we are seeing in the number of private hire vehicles, of minicabs. And our listeners may be aware of this because you'll have seen it around you. But there is just in the last 18 months, the numbers have gone up by 18%. They've leapt from about 65,000 minicabs last year to 78,690 this year at the moment, and it is growing about at a rate of about 1,000 a month. And when you consider, that there are a total of 25,000 black cabs, 8,500 buses or whatever, you're starting to see a real threat to the free movement of traffic on the road. So what we're proposing is that we need to have some legislation, and I'll be looking to take that forward, either myself or with help from colleagues in Parliament, to restrict the number of minicabs that can come on the streets. And people will say, oh, well, you're interfering with the free market and all that sort of stuff. Well, actually, I'm afraid that that traffic space in London is something that we do need to control. We already have congestion charges and parking permits and all sorts of means of trying to restrict traffic growth. And this huge growth in the number of minicabs is something we just have to deal with. We'll also be trying to do something at last to regulate pedicabs, rickshaws, which have so far been completely immune to any kind of.
What legislation might that be, Mr. Mayor?
Well, I think we'll have to find some way of licensing them, and that has so far eluded legislators. But now I'm in Parliament. We'll see what we can do.
I can hear the wails of anguish from taxi drivers, black cab drivers in London, saying you should never have allowed Uber in, Mr. Mayor. Then we wouldn't have this problem.
Well, as everybody knows, the difficulty was that we just had no legal choice. We had strong and clear advice that they could get a license, and we didn't. We weren't able to stop that. Alas, we're now going through a long legal process to see whether what they call a taximeter is, or what I think it probably is a taximeter, really is a taximeter, and therefore to change the Uber model. I fear, however, all friends in the black cab trade should realise that even if that case is successful before the courts, that it's inevitable that Uber will just change their model. They'll decide that the taximeter is going to be in the possession of the passenger, so they'll send all the data to the passenger rather than the driver. So we've got to brace ourselves for further difficulties. But what we're saying today is that we can't go on with this endless expansion in the number of minicabs. It is posing a serious congestion problem in the West End, around St Pancras International, Dover Street, Berkeley Street, Piccadilly, Portman Square, Knightsbridge. We're starting to see around Heathrow. We're starting to see congestion we think is at least partly attributable to this problem, and we need to sort it out.
But just lastly, Mr. Mayor, you talked about the real threat of congestion in the city, but surely some of that also has to be laid at the door of the cycle superhighway and the cycle lanes.
Yes,
is this not time for a radical rethink? Because if all this road space is being lost, 25,000 black cabs, 8,500 buses, 70-odd thousand minicabs, and in some places we've got one lane for them because we've got cycle routes.
Well. As you know, the cycle. Let's go back. We had a long conversation about this on.
We did.
Whatever it was.
I'm glad it's so memorable. It was Tuesday.
It was Tuesday. Well, what we will do with the cycle.
Rather hurtful.
We've got to get better cycling provision in London. We've just got.
But they're taking the road space, Mr. Mayor. I mean, people will be cheering. People will be cheering that you're at last doing something. But then they realise, of course, down on the embankment, it's just full of men wearing yellow, look like little George Osbornes wandering around digging up the road.
That's because we're putting.
Why do I always think of George Osborne every time I see someone in a high-vis vest now and a hat?
That is, well, he's a passionate enthusiast for
digging up roads,
infrastructure projects everywhere. But look, you can't make all that regulate. You've got to do something to improve cycling. I mean, you won't feel a thing. You'll be over before you know it. TfL are notoriously dynamic and efficient at getting this sort of thing done, and we will be able. I don't want to get. I don't want you to divert me back onto your.
No, I hear you. No, I won't divert. I won't allow a diversion.
The thing we're trying to get over is that it is time to recognise that the expansion of the number of minicabs is now reaching critical levels, and we need to. I'm afraid to do something, and so we'll be asking for legislation.
Grateful for your time, Mr. Mayor. Enjoy your weekend as and when you get there. You've been busy this week. London Mayor Boris Johnson, also of course Conservative MP for Uxbridge, 13 after 8. Listening to that to get us the view of at least part of the taxi trade. Steve McNamara, who's with the LTDA, the Licensed Taxi Drivers Association. How do you respond to what you just heard from the Mayor?
Yeah, at last, Nick. I mean, we're absolutely delighted. This is what London needs. What's going on the streets of the metropolis at the moment, it just cannot carry on. Residents can't get on residence bays. You've got people sleeping in cars. What's happening is certain minicab apps have sold a lifestyle and an income possibility to the minicab drivers. It's just totally unattainable. People come onto these apps, they think they're going to earn fortunes, and they wind up earning less than minimum wage. In order to make a living, they're having to sleep in the car, work 16, 17 hours a day. They're plotted up all over the West End. They're resorting to touting. It's absolute chaos what's going on. This is a common sense approach by the Mayor. This is what was needed. It's a little bit too late, but he's doing it, which is good news. We're genuinely pleased.
So I know they're not all black, Steve, but the black London taxi will survive, you believe?
Yeah, we're struggling at the moment, Nick, for all the reasons you've mentioned. The traffic's a nightmare. London is, the economy's not great in London at the moment. A lot of hotels are empty. The euro's having an effect. And we are being hit by...
Sorry, did you say the hotels are empty, Steve McNamara?
A lot of the hotels are about...
is that right?
About a third down. Yeah, about a third down on occupancy. They think the euro's hitting it. We're not quite... They were blaming the election. Now they're blaming the euro. But whatever it is, it's grim. But the reality is that what was happening... The irony of the situation, Nick, and this is what I really can't understand... Many of these drivers on these apps are having to claim tax credits and benefits to survive. These tax credits and benefits are funded by UK taxpayers, subsidising a $40 billion company that doesn't pay a penny in tax in the UK. I mean, something needs to be done. Boris has recognised the congestion issue, but George Osborne and the boys down at Downing Street really need to look at what's going on.
I will leave it there. Steve McNamara, thank you. You're from the Licensed Taxi Drivers Association. Coming up, your reactions.